Let's go ahead and call our meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. And Mr. Fontaine, will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Inchek.
Here.
Commissioner Fettner.
Here.
Commissioner Nanis.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Commissioner Mantis.
Here.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Present.
Chair Moore.
Also here.
We have a quorum. I also recognize Student Rep Alex Mendoza, City Council Liaison Annette Littler, and Corporation Counsel Marcus Martinez. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, first on our agenda is to approve the minutes from the last meeting, which was the regular meeting on February 18th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to accept the minutes of February 18th, 2025 as submitted.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Henry. Do I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nanis. Any discussion on these minutes? Did anybody find anything that was out of order? All righty. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstain. And we have one abstention. All right.
Madam Chair, I just want to recognize Autumn Palace, a student rep, has
Okay.
joined us.
Thank you. Hi, Adam. How are you? Okie dokie. So that is done. The next item on our list is we're going back to our public hearing of SUP-2025-00006 for the amendment to a special use permit and design review to establish a community and recreation center at 636 and 640 Ridge Road. I am to understand there is an update to the SUP.
Correct, and this is a new public hearing too.
Oh, this is a new public hearing. Let me get out my,
Hearing script.
okay. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Kristen Inchek.
Josh Nanis.
Danny Mantis.
Steve Kirch.
Ken Henry.
David Fettner.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Madam Chair, proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Burhap.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. And so this is an application I present for the city. This is an amendment to a SUP special use permit and design review for the Park District for their West Ridge property. And so this, just to be clear, this is a special use permit that is for the northeast and the southeast and the southwest part of this property. The northwest part has its own special use permit. So there was an approval last July 29th, 2024. There was an approval for a special use permit for a community and recreational center land use, and there was design review with that. And the commission considered this at 2 of its hearings leading up to that July 29th City Council approval. The project is to demolish the existing 43,000 square foot building on the north side, the rec center on the north, then build a new approximate 23,500 square foot rec center on the south, more towards the southeast section. That was approved. That was approved last year in July. Okay, so the applicant, in finalizing their building permit plans, made several changes. And so this is an amendment to that special use permit and that design review. So I have 3 slides here on the changes. The first change has to do with the height. So this was approved for a height of 27 feet. The proposed is now 30.8 feet, 3.8 feet higher. That is within the PA, the Public Activity Zoning District. This was rezoned to the PA district. That is within the 35 height limit. It's just a change to the plans that were approved with the special use permit. This is a snip from the packet. What's actually increasing in height, it's not the entire building, it's the gymnasium part, which is a sub-footprint of the overall footprint. That is what's increasing in height. I don't believe I have in my presentation the setbacks, though those plans were included in the packet that's posted online. The commission may recall that the building is actually set back considerably from the east property line along Ridge Road and far exceeds the PA zoning district requirement. And again, this is not for the commission because this is a variation. It complies with the PA height limit. This is just higher than what the plans allow for that were approved. There were also some changes made for the materials. This is just one snip I took and put in here. It was an exhibit in the packet where the applicant went through elevation by elevation and had red box line as to what was changing on each one. If the commission wants me to pull that up, I certainly can, but the entirety was in the packet. And then number 3, just some bullet points here. There was a traffic circle on the north parking lot. The SUP that was approved last July called for that to be removed. That's actually going to remain. That needs to be there for fire and emergency access. There's an update to landscaping. That's actually more. They're doing more. They're doing 1 additional shade and ornamental tree and 15 shrubs. That doesn't require commission approval. That's more. That's just back here, just as an FYI to you. There's also changes to the bollard lighting. They're changing from a wire to solar lighted bollard. Bug rating is 000. That means no uplight, no glare, zeros across the board. And there's 3,000 Kelvin correlated color temperature. That's what the city always encourages and asks for. That's what's being provided. Parking is also being reduced, but it still well exceeds the 99 minimum spaces that are required. Again, I want to emphasize no variations are requested. This is a change to the final development plans that were approved. The height consideration being number 1, and so that's why this is before the commission. No public comments have been received. At the request of the applicant, there are findings of fact recommending approval at this meeting that were included in the packet. So if the commission is ready to make a recommendation to approve, that could be done this evening. This is a public hearing, should take testimony from the, take testimony from the applicant and take public testimony as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, does the commission have any questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Henry.
I just had a question about the lighting. Is there any significance other than its change between going with hardwired lights and solar powered lights?
I'm just speculating. I imagine the solar powered would be more sustainable because it's powered from the sun, but those bollards are actually set back along. So there's an east parking lot along Ridge Road, and those lights are actually set back along, would be the west curb, so to speak, of the parking lot. So it will still comply with the photometric requirements. Yeah. We're presenting all the changes, Commissioner Henry, holistically. Since it's here for the height change, we're just letting the commission know in general all the changes.
I'm not quite clear on the turning circle.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, because I couldn't tell from the plans, is it still detached from the other parking lot, or are those going to be combined somehow? That I couldn't tell on the plan.
They're connected. So if you're talking about the furthest north parking lot, which to an extent exists today, and then how it goes over to that traffic circle, and then it kind of comes down to a parking lot for that separate building in the northwest quadrant, that they connect, sir. And they currently connect, and they will continue to connect.
But the one on the other lot, right now there's 2, right? There's the circle, then there's the lot, and there's a small dividing piece of ground.
I think this is the one we're talking about here.
Oh, okay. So I'm probably talking about what you would call the east traffic circle. That does disappear.
I'm just trying to locate the aerial here.
You talking about the current little drop off?
Yeah, in front of the building, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
it's on
that goes
the,
away
Building?
entirely.
No, I don't think there's any changes to that, forgive me.
Oh,
It goes away.
I think it goes away and they put it in your parking lot.
yeah, I guess so for some reason that struck me as being the north turning circle, so,
Sorry, are you talking about this area or the one up on the north?
no, not that, I'm talking about the one,
The one,
that's,
yeah,
right
right there.
there.
Oh, no, I think that's being removed. But I think that was always part of the plan from last year as well.
Right, I think it
Right.
goes away.
Right, yeah, this one's being removed, and that's was
Okay.
approved last July, and that's still the case today. Forgive me, I didn't know which one we were talking about.
No, see, and that
That's why I
was,
pulled up the map.
that's where I get confused.
Okay, any more questions for staff? All right, do we have any public questions for staff about this part of the project?
Or if the applicant wants to provide testimony.
I'm gonna ask them next. All right, does the applicant wish to provide us some extra testimony?
Hi, good evening. I'm Eric Reisinger with Holabird Root, the architect for the project.
Okay, and I will need to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, and next,
Barbara Dixon.
okay.
Landscape
Do
architect.
do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm happy to answer any questions that might come up, but essentially, I think it's been covered very well in the layout, but essentially we had bid day savings that were very favorable. So going to some of the glazed brick and change of materiality really added to the benefit of the building for long-term durability.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions from the public for our applicant? No questions from the public. Do we have any questions for the applicant from our Plan and Design Commission? No, all right. So what we would be looking for here is where did my notes go? A recommendation to approve the changes to this SUP. Would we be looking for a findings of fact?
We have them.
We have that.
There's
So
findings of fact in the packet.
So we're looking for approving the changes in the findings of fact, approving the recommendation for the changes that they would all then go to the city council.
So if I could,
Yes,
Madam
please.
Chair, I would move that we adopt findings of fact in the packet, recommending approval for an amendment to a special use permit and design review to establish a community and recreation center at 636, 640 Ridge Road.
Before that gets a second, I just want to be clear that you have final decision-making authority over the design review component.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Henry. Do we have any discussions? Does the commission have an issue with the design, with the new materials? Okay. Mr. Fontaine, please call the roll.
Commissioner Incheck.
Aye.
Commissioner Fetchner.
Aye.
Commissioner Nanis.
Aye.
Commissioner Henry.
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis. Aye. Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
And Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. This item has been recommended for approval to the City Council in terms of the special use permit, and the design review is approved. Final action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, good evening.
Okay, our next item of business is, public hearing, PUD-2024-00029 for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary plan development with modifications from code at 734 Central Avenue. Did we already open this?
This is a continued hearing.
That's what I thought, so I don't need to read that again. All righty, Mr. Burhup.
Thank you, Chair.
Please make presentation.
Again, my name is Carl Burhup. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. And so this is a continuation of the public hearing for a preliminary planned development. That's what PUD is, for a multifamily development at 734 Central Avenue. The applicant is seeking preliminary plan development approval for a 6-story multifamily development with 11 residential units. The site is currently 2 parcels with an existing 2-brick structure. This was initially considered on February 4th by the Plan and Design Commission, and now we are back as this was continued to today, March 18th. Okay, so a couple things just to run through. So the applicant submitted a new packet of exhibits with either revisions or just new things. And so I'm just going to run through that briefly. So one new item that was submitted was a narrative on sustainability and resilient design that was provided in part to respond to the city's environmental checklist. The applicant also made changes to renderings, and that was, what was the renderings in street elevation exhibit? So additional renderings were provided that included depiction of rooftop structures for what's proposed, and of the adjacent bulk of buildings was filled in kind of in bulk form. I'll just indicate the garage door for this building had changed colors. And so this is, I think I put 3 or 4, but the applicant's exhibit had, I think, 8. So I'll just run through these real quick. So the applicant added kind of bulk or massing. So that's to the west across McGovern. That would be to the east. So this is on Central Street looking south at the building that's proposed. I do want to point out that the building goes up to the lot line, a 0 setback here on the first floor for the garage. And then on this side of the building, again, there's a 5-foot setback running all the way up. This would just be from kind of this would be from the northwest looking southeast. And again, the applicant provided this updated rendering. Again, it shows bulk or massing of adjacent buildings. And then this is now on McGovern. This would be if we're on McGovern, and this would be looking, if we're kind of looking northeast towards Central. And then what the applicant did on this side, so there's a revision here. So here there's a 5-foot setback, a ground level 5-foot setback. Of course, when you get back here to this door, so this wall is a 0 setback line and runs all the way up. And then here there's a 5-foot setback. And of course, there's building code implications with that. So that's why the applicant laid out the design this way, where you have windows here, and here you do not. And then I think this is the last rendering I took, though. Like I said, there were 7 or 8 in the packet. This is just an aerial view, or a bird's eye view. Yeah, aerial bird's eye view. And this hopefully gives a better image of the rooftop structures. Because remember, in this district, you can have 4 stories. And so the applicant has a 5th story with 2 residential units that stepped back. And then there are elements of 6th floor stories up here. Okay, so then for the architectural plans, and I'll run through just a few of these real quick after this slide. So there's a turning exhibit for the interior first floor garage has been provided. That was another comment from the commission from February 4th. The facade had revisions to it. I just talked about the new 5-foot setback that was added to that south property line. There's a rubbish depiction on the site plan along the west. I'll point that out. That'll have to be screened or fenced as appropriate. Then also, I believe on the site plan indicated there's going to be fencing on the south property line. I just indicate such fencing shall have to comply with Chapter 173 fence requirements. And so this is the site plan from the latest. And the takeaway from here is that the applicant, and I have a slide on this as well, but they added additional shrubs, and then they indicated 3 different types of species. So that was one of the revisions. More landscaping information was added. This is the turning exhibit. Again, these are all in the packet as well. This is the turning exhibit that the applicant shows a certain type of vehicle that is moving into and out of the spaces. And then this purpose of this exhibit is just to show again that 5-foot setback that was added here. On the left is the roof plan that was on February 4th. On the right, the one with red revised, that's the roof plan that's before the commission now. You'll see that the applicant added rooftop mechanical in these corners. You'll see that the applicant struck a rooftop stairwell access here. And then you can't read it on this resolution, but you'll see that the applicant modified the elevator. I don't believe there's going to be elevator access at the top. I think it cuts off. It's just like bulkhead now. So those were the changes to the roof plan. Oh yeah, so I just said on the roof plan, the applicant depicts AC units. The roof has been, the elevators, the roof has been removed, but modified is still the bulkhead. One stairwell was removed. That was in the staff report. Any mechanical equipment must comply with the sound regulations. Yes, we ran through those. Landscaping changes. So it was updated. There are 3 different species proposed, and then there was an increase in the shrub count. So the shrub count increased by 26. Hold on one second. Yeah, so there's no relief needed there. No relief is needed for the shrub count. They're 22 in excess. Now there was talk about the trees, and of course this property, they're doing, in this zoning district, there's the Article 23 overlay. And so they have to have they actually have to have a setback. It's like that build to between zone. And so they're meeting the 5-foot setback. And as they depicted it, those are shrubs, not necessarily room for trees there. And so I know the commission talked about, well, can they put trees to the west in the McGovern right of way, or for any of the right of ways for that matter? Well, we put that question to our city forester, Ben Miller, and I'm paraphrasing him here, but the exact words were in the report. The answer is no. Forestry doesn't support that. This is there's insufficient space for additional parkway trees, and that there would be a concern with putting those trees in there for traffic visibility reasons. So the question was asked, and that's the feedback from our city forester on that. So changes to the modifications that are, I got 2 slides here. This slide is what's changed for the modifications that are requested. The next slide is what stayed the same, because I still think that's important to remember that. So in terms of height relief, this zoning district allows a maximum of 4 stories and 51 feet. I'll just point out that one of the exhibits, and I apologize, I wasn't able to ask this to the applicant in advance, but one of the exhibits was 7 inches different, so the applicant should just clarify if the relief is still 68.5 feet or if it's going to 69 feet. The stories are the same, but obviously we talked about how what's on the rooftop has been modified. So there's context behind that. There's a modification to section 150.520M for construction to the property line on the east side, the 0 setback. That was relief at the prior meeting as well. I just don't believe that was in the staff report, so we just want to make that clear. There's a PUD requirement where a new building is supposed to be at least 15 feet away from any new or other existing building. And then finally, exterior lighting and photometric information was submitted by the applicant. That came in yesterday. That's still under review. I did distribute that. I will make sure that gets in the packet for next time, and there will be review next time for that. Okay, and here, these are just the modifications in public benefit. There are no changes to this. This is just a reminder to the commission that they're also asking for traffic visibility requirements since this is at a corner. We did discuss that. We discussed the distance last time. They still need to verify the transparency and blank wall requirements. Though I did see numbering on the photometric plans. Perhaps that may respond to that. I just did not have time to completely review that as that came in yesterday. The aforementioned landscaping modification for the trees, not for the shrubs. Then that response there to that section. And then the public benefit, that's what was proposed, and they did not submit a change to that. I think I'm almost done with my presentation, just a few more at most. So the Housing Commission, this is an update. The Housing Commission reviewed this preliminary review at its March 5th meeting. 1 inclusionary unit is proposed and $148,320 payment in lieu for the fractional 0.8 required units. This is there's a little more bulk to this in the report, but long story short, Housing Commission recommended 5-0 in favor. Preliminary approval of this inclusionary housing plan. It'll come back again on April 2nd to the Housing Commission. Oh, that is my presentation. So again, standard recommendation. The commission should consider the changes, take testimony from the applicant, reopen the public hearing and take testimony from residents, and then either continue or direct staff for findings of fact for a future meeting as appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for staff? No questions for staff at this point. Would the applicant like to come up and present?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I was previously sworn in.
Yes.
This gentleman was not, so he needs to be sworn.
Okay.
He's from the architectural firm.
Please state your name,
My name is Dan Contreras,
and can you please spell your last name for a minute taker?
Contreras.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. If you recall, this matter was continued from February, the February 4th meeting. At the February 4th meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about why we need the height variance. The fact that this is, even though the zoning district, the underlying zoning district is B45, we're constrained to develop this property under the B44, which provides for a lower height because the lot is undersized. If you recall, we polled the board at that time and determined whether you were amenable to the height variance, and I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we got a positive response on that. So we went back to the drawing boards to make some modifications to the plan, especially to the roof deck, because we heard some comments from the commission at that time, which we've come back with. In addition, we've received additional letters of support that are in the packet, one from Sunset Foods, and some letters of support from other neighbors. Dan is here tonight to go through the changes if you want more detail. As always, Carl did an excellent job going through what the changes are. The most important thing is that we removed the elevator shaft on the rooftop. There is still slightly a small little 2 foot, I believe 2 feet, right? Yeah, 2 feet that the elevator has to bleed into the roof. And we removed one of these stairwells. So there's only, there's 3 stairwells, correct? Common one? Yes. 2 from the units. Yeah, 2 from the units and 1 common one. That's really the major change. The rest of them are just really regarding the design of the building. Again, that's all in response to the comments we heard from the Plan Design Commission. If you want Dan to go through all the changes again, but Carl already did that, or we're available for any questions you may have. Oh, one more thing before I hand it off is one of the things that was discussed at the last meeting was there was a lot of questions about the affordable unit and how, and so what you decided to do was continue the matter to a time certain after the Housing Commission had an opportunity to review the affordable plan, and it was very well received, and they received a 5-0 preliminary approval, which we go back to the beginning of April for final approval from the Housing Commission. So we checked that box, and again, the architect's here to go through any more detail on any of the changes, but that's all we have for this evening.
Okay, do we have any questions from the commission?
Yeah.
Commissioner Henry?
I'm troubled by the garage setup. If I'm reading it right, it seems like there's one car that's parked just off of the entrance, and for it to get in and out, it's got to go into the garage and then back out. Or do we turn? Am I reading that right?
I'll turn it over to the architect. He's the expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, due to the nature of this small lot, I mean, the parking was a challenge for sure. So in our opinion, it is feasible to park in there, but it would be difficult for the first few times. Then I think you'd probably get the hang of it. But yeah, I'm acknowledging that it is.
Yeah, well, what I find trouble, without expressing a yay or a nay or anything else, it's just troubling to me that car needs to, in order to get in and out, needs to come into the garage, going through the pedestrian entrance as well as the entrance and exit from the garage, just to get in and out of there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's just the nature of this confined lot. I mean, we tried a lot of different configurations, and there was a challenge to get that in there.
Well, and I would be concerned that does that car have to back out of the garage?
Either
onto
it backs out or it does a U-turn
onto a
in
busy
the
street,
garage.
right.
Have to do a three-point turn inside
Yeah.
and then get back the right way, yeah.
Any more questions, Ken?
No.
Okay.
I did want to add another change that came up recently. We got some preliminary civil drawings back. They're proposing, because of the elevation height of the service door from the garage relative to the lobby door, they want to add a ramp up against the building on the McGovern side. So that little patch of, if we can look at the site plan, Carl, that little patch of shrubs that's on the west side, that's where they're proposing a ramp, so it might need to reduce the number of shrubs to 9, but still over the required shrub count. Just want to bring that to your attention.
Okay. Commissioner Imchuk.
I have a question about the elevation. If we could go back to that, the rendering. It looks as though you can't really see anything on the 6th story with the revisions that have been made. Is that true from
Yeah.
all angles of the building?
It depends on how far you come back, but the perspective, if we go back to the other rendering, like that perspective is actually elevated up a little higher. It's almost at the floor level of the 2nd floor of where your perspective is. So we're trying to make it clear that you can't really see a lot of that per floor.
So it basically reads as a 5-story building.
Absolutely,
from the
yeah,
street.
because of that setback, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As was mentioned by Carl, the only elements on the 6th floor is the deck and the stairwell, so, you know, the huts for the stairwells, and I believe there's also a pergola up there also.
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's really not a lot of bulk on that 6th floor.
Yeah, it's just for access, basically, in the vertical.
I have a question on the stairwell huts. What material are you using for that? Because in that elevation there, it just shows that it's white, and then in some of the other elevations, it shows it's the same as the building material, which could be brick. Do you know what?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that specifically. I'm assuming that it will be a masonry material, because that's what's structured underneath it to support. So
It will be visible at some points, right? At some points around the city you're driving around, you will be able to see those stairwell huts, right?
yeah, like if you get far back enough, you probably would. I mean, it would be difficult to see it even from across the street on the sidewalk.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know, I think, what that material would be.
Okay.
Anybody?
I did provide Carl with some brick samples. One of the changes was at the ground level, we added a contrasting brick material. So that one of those is the brick for the main building, and the other one, the darker one, would be what we're proposing for the ground level. Just to give a little contrast, and we'd probably have a darker mortar to further emphasize that contrast.
And those changes were made in response to comments
Yeah.
we received last time from the design division.
Yeah, I think it like anchors the building a little bit better with having that base around the streetscape, or the street elevation.
Mr. Fontaine, you have a question, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out there. Thank you for that additional variation there in the facade bricking. But in terms of the roof and it's the stairways, you know, is it something that you can do in terms of having it be clad with the same type of brick as the superstructure above the first floor?
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Something the commission might want to see.
Any comments on that comment? Any comments on? Are you able to comment on the 68 feet and 5 inches versus the 69 feet? Or you still have to go back and look at that?
We're asking for the 69, just to like round that number up.
Okay.
Because as you can tell by the rendering, those stairwells aren't fully detailed yet.
Okay.
I want to make sure I got enough room to play with. We might add a cord nest or some other detailing that will bring that up a little bit. I think 69 is going to be doable
Okay.
and realistic, yeah.
And again, I assume the same as with the transparency, those numbers still have yet to be calculated?
We are at that 20% for the ground floor. So that's something we have in the design already.
Okay. All right, any more questions from the commission?
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes, please. Commissioner Henry.
Carl, if I can go back to you for a second. Did I see on the slide from the forester that he still has concerns regarding visibility?
At the corner.
If there were to be additional plantings within
Okay.
McGovern. So the forester's concerns were limited to just this parkway to the west. And the forester was not in favor of additional plantings there because they stated in their opinion there was not sufficient room for additional plantings, and that in this area, there would be concern for traffic visibility. He was not, just to be clear, he was not referring to the building itself.
Okay, no, I understand. It was
Okay,
the
sorry.
plantings, it wasn't the building. But it's all part and parcel of the development.
Yeah, and obviously, we're going to comply with the forester's request.
Okay. Do we have any comments from the public? Oh, yes, sorry. Councilperson Littlewer.
I just want to make sure I have questions answered. I'm not sure they'll get answered at the council level. And this is actually for staff as well as for the applicant. I just want to ensure that, I'm glad you cleared that up about the forester, Commissioner Henry. But as far as the city engineers and staff, there was no problem with visibility, especially on the north side on Central, at that corner there. And I know it's a right-hand turn coming out from McGovern. Is that McGovern right now? Yeah.
McGovern and Central.
McGovern to Central.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask about the actual building, not about the plantings in terms of visibility.
Would you like me to respond? I can respond. So I can respond. So, and if I remember correctly, you might have been absent at that.
I missed one meeting.
So at that meeting, so the requirement is it's a 25 by 25 foot traffic vision triangle. And per code, it's measured at the property line. So it'd be 25 feet down here and 25 feet this way. I had used the survey as well as GIS. And now granted, this is not the code requirement, but there's context, right? So we just try to look at what makes sense, what's the context. And if you use that 25-foot requirement and you use the curb, it's actually something like 25 or 30 feet here. And then of course, down is fine. And so if you only use the parkway, the building will not be in that traffic visibility area. And in terms of engineering division, no, they did not comment on that. And I will add, I actually referred that question to the police department as well, and they did not have comments.
Perfect. That's exactly the response I'll need for city council. So that's great. So that's one. The second one was there were several pictures showing the neighboring building, which is about the same height, which alleviated some concerns. But I guess my question is, I didn't see the rest of the neighborhood in the packet, and I'm wondering if how that looks as a street, not just as those two buildings. I tried to look at it in the packet, but I'm not sure there was any rendering to that effect.
We have just massing models of the neighboring buildings to the east and the west, I guess, the McGovern house as well. But we don't have them in the elevation. The only study we did was comparing the height to McGovern house.
Yeah, we had a discussion at the last meeting with regard to that specific issue. The discussion really was really involving the fact that the properties to the east are in the B45 zoning district, which allows for 5 stories. So when we discussed this, and the board members can remember, is that if those properties are redeveloped, then they can go to the same height as our building, assuming the lots are not undersized like we are, and as a matter of right. They don't have to do it because it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's because they'll be governed by the underlying zoning, which is the B45, where we were governed by B44 because our lot was undersized. Currently, as you know, where Shavitz is and those are 1-story buildings, but if they are redeveloped in the future, they have the ability to go to the same height that we're proposing here.
Perfect answer. Thank you very much. I apologize that I didn't have that information. Thank you.
I had one more question. At our last discussion on this, we talked about the size of the inclusionary unit. Has anything been changed for that?
I think it was made slightly larger, and again, that was well received by the Housing Commission.
Okay. Any more comments by the commission? All right. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this? Please come up to the podium if you do. All right, we don't have any. Okay, so what we'd be looking for. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I assume, so on the question of 68 feet, 5 inches versus 69 feet, we're looking at 69 feet. We'd be looking to direct staff to provide findings of fact for us, if we think we're ready for that. So if someone would like to motion.
Madam Chair, I would move that we direct staff to draft findings of fact recommending approval of special use permit in the nature of a preliminary plan development with modifications for 734 Central Avenue.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Vice Chair Kurtz, seconded by Commissioner Fettner. Any discussion? Okay, please call the roll, Mr. Fontaine.
Commissioner Inchik.
Aye.
Commissioner Fettner.
Aye.
Commissioner Natus.
Aye.
Commissioner Henry.
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis. Aye. Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it, the motion carries. This item is recommended for approval to the City Council.
Findings of fact.
That was just a
Findings of
motion to
fact.
direct.
My victim, direct findings of fact, I apologize.
And we-
Correction is not recommended for approval of the council. It's recommended that it's a direction to staff to draft findings of fact, recommending approval to council. Thank
And we
you.
also need
Sorry.
another motion to continue this matter to a date certain.
Thank you. Is there a particular date that the staff would like to have for this?
The next available date will be the April 15th Plan and
Yeah, it's
Design
after the Housing
Commission.
Commission. We have to come back after we go to the
After
Housing
Housing
Commission.
Commission,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, so that works for the calendar for that meeting?
Yes.
For staff? Okay. So can we get a motion to take this up again on the 15th of April?
So moved.
Okay, well, I'm not making the so we have a motion being made by Commissioner Mantis. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Henry. Do we need to do a voice vote on this?
That's fine.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? All right, so this is moved to, this will reopen on the 15th of April.
This item has been continued to the 15th of April for this room at 7 PM, City Hall. Your notice is actual. There'll be no new notice for this continued public hearing, at which we'll consider the draft findings of fact.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, our next item of business is, please remember as you exit to keep your voices down. Okay, next item is public hearing PUD-2025-00033 for special use permit in the nature of preliminary and final plan development with amendment to the development agreement, final plat of re-subdivision, design review, and variations and modifications from city code as appropriate for the proposed townhomes and condominiums for Phase 2 and other improvements at the corner of Laurel Avenue and McGovern Street, including 844 to 768 Laurel Avenue and 1682 to 1652 McGovern Street.
Madam Chair, I need to make a statement. In my former company, we did a lot of work on the original Phase 1 of this project.
Okay.
Under advice of corporate counsel, I'm going to have to recuse myself to avoid any appearance of impropriety.
Okay.
Okay? Don't forget about me. I'll be.
We'll
We'll have to remember to grab him when this
Yes.
public hearing is closed.
Madam Chair, I have a quick disclosure as well. I was hired by the partner of the applicant on an unrelated property in Highwood for the sale.
Okay.
I don't think that it would cause any conflict here, so just a disclosure.
Thank you. Corporation Counsel, are we okay with that?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Are we considering this a new hearing, I assume?
Yes, this is a
All
new
righty.
public hearing.
So welcome to the regular meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Karen Moore. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right.
Kristen Incheck.
Josh Nanis.
Danny Mantis.
Steve Kirch.
Ken Henry.
Thank you. The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend that the City Council based upon the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony is under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards for the relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. Finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. With that, I open the floor for the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right.
Chair, have I introduced Senior Planner Rati Akash to the commission before? I can't
Yes.
recall the last time. Okay, this is the Senior Planner Rati Akash.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you, Chair Mo. Thank you. Thank you, Carl. So yes, I am a senior planner with community development, and I'm also the liaison to the Housing Commission. So getting into Laurel Park development, so where is this located? This is located in the corner of Laurel Avenue and McGovern. So if you look at it right now, we have 12 existing townhomes. This is improved, which you can see as phase 1, which was completed. And what's proposed now in phase 2 is 18 townhomes. Can you see that in yellow? So those are the 18 townhomes. So if you walk and drive by, if you look through the fence, you will see existing foundations for those 18 townhomes. In addition, they're proposing in through phase 2 is 12 condominiums on the corner, which is outlined in blue. So what are the considerations before the Plan and Design Commission? So as part of those 12 existing townhomes in the Laurel Park development, in 2006, there was an ordinance number 23-06, which was passed, and a 2006 development agreement. So this needs an amendment to that agreement. It needs a special use permit in nature of a preliminary as well as a final plan development. It requires design review. Of course, the Plan and Design Commission has the final authority. A plat of subdivision, because again, we have those 12 existing townhomes with individual owners, and now we're getting those as part of phase 2, the 18 townhomes and the 12 condominiums. And it also requires a preliminary and final inclusionary housing plan. And just to give you a heads up, this has already gone to the Housing Commission for a preliminary inclusionary housing plan. So I'm just going to go into each of the sections. So for zoning, we need to bear in mind that as part of the 2006 development agreement and the ordinance that was passed, there were some variations that were already granted as part of that. But again, this needs to apply to the present code and the same variations need to be considered. So I'm going to go over the ones that require variation for zoning. The first one is the front yard setback. So presently, they are proposing the same thing. Like I told you, their existing foundations for the townhomes, nothing is changed. And I believe the footprint is the same. I want the developer to confirm that because they are proposing a drive aisle now. And I got a new revised plan yesterday based on the HOA's feedback. So I don't know if the footprint is changing and if those front setbacks are going to remain the same. But for now, I can tell you that whatever was approved as part of 2006, nothing is changing. As for the east side yard, we're going to confirm that. They're working with the HOA and seeing how this is going to be subdivided. And once we get the finalized plan, we will be able to let you know how much that east side back is. The east one, and I'm going to show you the site plan. So what I'm referencing now is the west and the south meet code. The west is towards Hickory Lane and Laurel Park. The north setback, the north, which is the front setback, requires a variation, and the east, if you look at it, because it does back up the existing HOA. So zoning analysis for density, if you did see my report, I did mark in that it actually required a variation. After discussing with corporate counsel, I just wanted to give you an update that the PUD is considered for the entire lot for density. And this was improved, this is improved by 12 townhomes, but it was approved for a 42-unit development, which comprised of 12 plus 18 townhomes. Those are 30 townhomes and 12 condominiums. So this was improved by 42 units. Coming to height. So what we have here is they're proposing a condominium building of 52 feet in height, and the townhomes are going to be 38 feet in height. If you do look at the ordinance and the 2006 development agreement, the approved variation was 39 feet. However, the new variation required is going to be a little bit more, which is 17 feet more. I'm going to have the developer come up after this and then speak because it's a more contemporary style, and it also has each floor has a larger height, so it amounts to a greater height. So this would need a greater variation. And then lot coverage. The lot coverage remains the same compared to whatever was approved as part of 2006, which will be 11% increase. However, and I want to note again, there is a drive aisle that's been added between the condominium building now and the townhomes, and that will change the coverage. And we received that more recently, so this percentage will increase. Signage. So they would need relief for signage as well. This is considered a projecting sign, and this is similar to the one Albion has, if you've seen that. So this will be baked into the PUD as a sign package. And as long as it meets the intent of the projecting sign, which it needs to be 12 feet above grade and also be artistic in nature, we've confirmed with the developer this is not an illuminated sign. And coming to commission meetings, just giving y'all a heads up. So Laurel Park Development has come before the Housing Commission twice. So and I'll tell you why it went before the Housing Commission, but I just want to know on February 5th as well as on March 5th. One of the one of the most significant amendments to the 2006 development agreement includes reducing the required 7 affordable units on site to 4.8. This is why they went before the Housing Commission first to see if the Housing Commission was okay with this. So they are okay with reducing those 7 affordable housing units to 4.8. So this took place in February 5th, and I'll get into the details in the subsequent slide. In addition, this went for a preliminary inclusionary housing plan. So any change from that 7 affordable units to 4.8 would need an amendment to the 2006 development agreement with variation. And there are departures that, with the new proposal that will be required. But please note the developer is working with staff before this goes for the final inclusionary plan to the Housing Commission on April 2nd. So coming to the inclusionary housing plan. So right now coming back, if you remember the first slide, it's improved by 12 townhomes which are individually owned. Now the 12 townhomes that are existing as part of phase 1 have no inclusionary units included on that. The new proposal for the 30 units requires, based on the inclusionary housing calculator, requires 4.8 units. And the Housing Commission is okay with that reduction from 7 to 4.8 for the phase 2 of the development. This is why there's a reduction. The developer is proposing 4 units in the condominium building, and that 0.8 fractional unit will be paid as payment in lieu of 148,320. And I also want to note, there are a few things. So when it comes to landscaping, they did provide a plan and staff has reviewed it. However, please note, it is changing because of the drive aisle. So there will be variations needed for the 5-foot foundation landscaping. We will look into that because that plan is subject to change. So note that there is a fence going up on the rear. The applicant will submit to staff in the subsequent meeting pictures of that fence and photometrics. There are bollards, if you can see in the rear, there's no light pole, and the applicant can speak to that, but staff will work with them for those details. Coming to design review, one of the things to note here is this is more of a modernistic contemporary style architecture. Staff looked through the findings, if you see in the report, and didn't find any sort of concerns except that when it comes to compatibility with the existing. So, if you got a chance to drive by and see this, the existing townhomes off of Laurel Avenue are traditional, sort of Greek style with the, pitched roof with those columns, versus a more contemporary style. So I leave it to the Plan and Design Commission to see what needs to be done if there is some type of transition that you want to see. But stand alone by what it is. I mean, it meets the design review intent. It's not monotonous, and it has its own character and style.
Oh, thank you for placing that picture up.
Yeah. And then I just do want to note, when I said public comments, there was an attachment, I believe it was attachment 16, I can't remember the number. The developer did meet with the existing HOA of those 12 townhomes, I believe on Thursday, March 13th, and they are present here today. There were items that were brought up, and I'm trying to sum it up, with congestion within the site, parking, common area maintenance, construction safety. So with ingress and egress and with congestion, this is the new improved plan that the developer submitted recently. So you do see that drive aisle between that condominium building and that townhome. I should have highlighted it, but it's right there. Previously,
Oh, that one, okay.
so if you see the previous plan in the packet, that was just landscape. Yeah. I turn it over to the Plan and Design Commission, to open the public hearing and consider the request or continue this project or direct findings of fact as appropriate. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Henry, go ahead.
Are there fewer units ultimately being proposed than there were when this plan was originally approved?
No, it's going to be the same. So the 2006 development agreement approved 42 units, and it's going to be 42 units. So it's presently improved by 12 townhomes, and the developer now, as part of phase 2, is proposing 30 units. 30 units are broken up as 18 townhomes and 12 condominiums.
I'm going back to the inclusionary plan, and I know it's not our purview, frankly, and frankly, the Housing Commission is one of the only commissions that I haven't served on. But yeah, there's still
We'll let them
time. There's still time. But I find it troubling that the property hasn't changed, it hasn't gotten smaller. The units are the same, and yet the Housing Commission, I guess I'm curious as to why they would agree or seemingly be favorable. I'm assuming they haven't voted, but being favorable on reducing the number of inclusionary units. I just find that troubling.
Mr. Fontaine, maybe.
Yes. Madam Chair, so just some background on this project. So, this is 19 years ago, this was approved. It was not completed. It was part of a, Great Recession kind of failure, right? In terms of the total project. Obviously, the 12 units were successfully built and occupied since. The remainder of the project just languished, and quite frankly, it was picked up, sold, whatnot. This is repackaging the project and looking at it anew, okay, in sense that from the perspective of how do we see to it that the rest of the project gets done? Well, part of the problem, or the barrier, if you will, or hurdle, was that the rest of the project would have to make up for the prior phases' lack of inclusionary units. So that was a significant hurdle. I can tell you I've met with about every half year another developer for the last 10, 11 years. Okay, so we're here tonight with somebody who's fashioned a proposal that we think could be considered. And that's why we did, and that's why they went to the Housing Commission a little early, because of the inclusionary housing issue, quite frankly, and they went preliminarily, very preliminarily, to try to understand thoughts on that. At some point, though, I would suggest that we're looking at this as it's a relief that they're going to be requesting on that requirement, right? To bring it down so that the phase 2 is doing what the affordable housing requirement is for phase 2, not looking at phase 1. Granted, it needs relief because this project is a whole. It's a PUD. Even though there's 2 phases, it's 1 PUD. So it does still need relief. But the idea being is, hey, this phase 2 can get done, but not necessarily with the additional requirement from the phase 1 that didn't get done. So that's what the ask for relief is, to break this free, break this loose, and get this redeveloped. That's really the beginning and end and middle of that. And so, yeah, that is a request. And the rest of the request, though, does meet, for the phase 2 part, does meet the inclusionary housing code in terms of the number of units, and you're allowed to do the partial units, the 0.8 by payment in lieu by right, and you do the 4. Now, Rati had mentioned there are some departures from the code. That's different than modifications from the code that this commission considers. Departures, there are some departures that the Housing Commission can consider, and they're doing that as part of their work, considering the inclusionary housing plan, and that will come back to you with the final recommendation. And Rati can talk more about where they're at right now. But my understanding, and Rati, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the Housing Commission has reviewed this, at least preliminarily, and what was their vote and what were their thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you, Director Fontaine. Yes, the Housing Commission has reviewed the preliminary inclusionary plan and is supportive of that, amendment to the approved agreement with a variation to reduce those 7 units to 4.8. Like Director Fontaine mentioned, please bear in mind those 12 units are already existing. So we're just considering phase 2 of those 30 units. And if you look at the phase 2 of those 30 units, the amount of inclusionary housing units that need to be provided is 4.8, and that meets code. And of course, it's a reduction, but it's something where, the Housing Commission has found middle ground because they do want to see this development come up.
All right, thank you for that piece of information, because I was going to ask exactly that. If you're just looking at this portion as a whole, did it meet the housing requirement? Okay, so that's good to know. Commissioner Nanas's question.
Given that this is already passed and approved in 2005, 7, whatever year it was, could they, in theory, by right, just keep those plans and just build what was ever passed, or would they have to come back if they kept everything the same? and not change the plans, the bulk, the design?
They would have to they have to comply with the current code.
They have to comply with the current.
Yeah.
That's
So
correct.
there's
So there
been-
need to be
the code's
some
been
changes.
updated between now and then.
There have been some changes. Yes, what I'm saying, essentially, the current project is in default, you could say. They did not follow through on the development agreement fully. We're here 19 years later talking about it. We certainly didn't expect the second phase to be that long off, because the way we do development agreements and for planned developments is it's supposed to be one continuous phase, unless it's specifically called out as such in different phases. So we are calling it phase 1 and phase 2 now in retrospect, given the situation that we're in, so we can just understand that there's really 2 distinct parts to this project. And so, like Rati said, even for the design review, if you look at the second phase as its own standalone project, you look at it one way. If you look at it as part of that first phase project, well, there's a difference in the design, right? It's distinctly different. So that's how we're looking at this going forward in an effort to see to it that the land can be developed in a reasonable way and in as close a compliance with our codes as it can, given that circumstance. A lot happened during the 08 recession, a lot of not good things. And so there's some hangover, believe it or not, still out there. And this is part of it. Yep, there's this lingering lack of compliance in that way. Yep.
Thank you.
And so one of the things that I've tried to do is, and I'll do that in the subsequent report. Oh,
I think there was another commission. Did you have? I thought there was
I
another
think we've
commissioner.
got 2 more
speaking.
questions from
Yeah.
the commission. Vice Chair Kirch.
Just a brief interjection on the inclusionary thing. I don't have a problem with, I mean, somebody's getting away with not doing what they should have done, but that's in the past, so forget about it. However, I don't understand why there's no townhomes included in the inclusionary part of it. That was definitely part of the original agreement. And I would think that would go a long way to making me happier. The other question regarding building codes in regards to these foundations that they want to rebuild on, have the codes changed since 2006, number one, and number two, who for the city is responsible for inspecting those and making sure that they're, listen, I'm just saying, if my wife were gonna buy one of these, you can tell her all about concrete and how it lasts 100 years without any problems, but she ain't gonna believe it if it was sitting there in a vacant lot for 19 years. So I think.
So I do have some slides that I can show you, Commissioner Kirsch.
Go ahead, Director Fontaine.
So the Office of Community Development does do the inspections on the building code end of things. We do planning and building. And that's why we have the 2 divisions. In terms of the foundations, they're assessed by structural engineers. So each one of those foundations is going to have to be certified by a structural engineer, and we'll have our own third-party structural engineer look in on that as well. And so that's how that's done. And if the foundations are in good enough shape, then they'll pass. If they're not, they'll have to be redone. And so that's what we've said consistently throughout. And there's been places in the past that we've had similar things where foundations have been found to be fine and work just fine. So that's the answer to that question. And you had another question about the units. That has all been revealed about the inclusionary units, townhouse versus condo building. That's all been discussed at the Housing Commission in full and in full transparency. So I just
Okay,
want to let you know that.
my personal feeling,
Yep.
I don't want to, intrude on the Housing Commission's work, and they work as hard as anybody else, but that it doesn't sit right with me that there's no townhome that's inclusionary.
Okay.
Noted, and I will bring up the point at the Housing Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner Imchik had a question.
I have a question about the site plan, if we could pull that up quickly. I think you mentioned the overall lot coverage is a maximum of 44%. Is that correct?
So what's required right now is 33%, and they did get a relief of an additional 11%. They were not changing anything. However, I did mention there is that drive aisle right here that they did add, so this will increase, and I don't know that percentage, so everything's gonna change, so this will be forthcoming to you with that increased percentage. Director Fontaine, yeah.
Do you want to go ahead?
I wait
No,
for the chair to
sorry, go
recognize.
ahead, Director.
So, Madam Chair, just to be clear, when we say 11%, it's 11 percentage points. So the requirement is 33%. What they're
Right.
proposing is 44%. So
Right.
it's 11 percentage points more, not 11% more.
Right.
It's just a distinction that I think is important for everyone to understand. That's one thing. Also, there was a mention earlier about the density of the development in its two phases. So for the purposes, this is all one plan development. So it's taken as a zoning lot essentially, right? The entirety of the development's land area is included in the calculations. And so Rati had indicated it does meet that code. So there is no variance needed. If this were split as two different PUDs, she was indicating that one part, this second phase, would be deficient in land area for that. But that's not the way we're looking at this because it is one PUD amendment and it is in totality. And so it will meet the zoning requirements. And it's what was previously approved, the 42 units, the 12 that are there and the 30 that are yet to be developed. So I just wanted to be clear on that. One other thing, if I may. So the other aspect of this is there was a question about codes and building codes. Commissioner Henry mentioned it, and I didn't answer that, and that was just an oversight on my part. Yes, the codes have changed since 2006. Absolutely, we've gone through several cycles of codes. You know, the building code is now, we're on the 2018 codes, and we're looking at even the 2024s. But having said that, in terms of stormwater and all of our codes, when it comes to building permit time, after this type of a consideration, they have to abide by the now applicable codes. Okay, so you may have approvals to do things via zoning from the past, but that doesn't mean you have approvals by building code. We're not frozen in time by building code, not at all. And so building code and drainage and grading and things like that are all whatever today's codes are, and that's how that's applied. Okay. I failed to answer that question.
Actually, who asked that.
Okay, maybe that is, I thought it was you.
I'll go with it.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make that clear. So thank you for your indulgence, appreciate it.
Commissioner,
Can I just follow up on that question? So the lot coverage requirement, does that include building footprints and all the impervious surface that's on the site, or is it only one of those?
It's including both.
May I respond to that?
Yeah.
Yes,
The
please.
lot coverage requirement in the zoning code, so the requirement is 33.3%, and it's defined in section 150.202. It includes only principal and accessory buildings.
Okay, that was my question, because looking at this site plan, I was having a lot of trouble getting to something like 44% coverage. If you look at the sidewalks, the drive aisles, the driveways, the buildings. So it's just the buildings and accessory structures, which it doesn't look like there are any accessory structures on the site.
There are no accessory structures. It's just the primary, the condominium buildings and those 18 townhomes as part of phase 2 and those existing 12 townhomes.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have a question?
One small question.
Please.
So I have not looked at a sign package for a multi-family development in the past. There's nothing in the existing ordinance that requires a sign or anything like that. That is simply the applicant requesting a sign, correct?
Correct. And this will be baked into the PUD.
That's their request, yes. So in terms of signage, sometimes it's commonly confused with just addressing. There are addressing requirements for fire code and things like that in terms of the street number and things like that for the homes and the units and all that, but not a sign like that, no.
Okay, does the commission wish to opine on the design that was here? There was a comment that, do we wish for this to look a little bit more like the original part of the phase, or are we okay with it looking like something completely different?
I may just comment on that, just
Sure.
one thing, and I know it's obvious, but just keep in mind, we are 19 years out.
Right, there are two
Okay,
different, I know,
so
there are two different
even though it's
developments.
one PUD, there's nothing to say that that can't be different. I just want to say that. You may want it to be similar, that's fine, and, you know, you'd have to think about that, but I just point that out.
Thank you, or perhaps they could adopt some of the coloration in the new one to tie in better with the old one, just so it kind of fits on the streetscape. Okay, with the
Chair,
oh, yes.
If I may, just briefly, I wanted to revisit and kind of echo something that both Commissioners Kirch and Commissioner Henry had alluded to. I understand and I can appreciate that a significant portion of this is tied to the inclusionary housing. But as has been stated, that is in the wheelhouse of the Housing Commission. And so your purview, what you're going to be focusing on as you make your decision is going to be the other aspects, the design review, the site plan, the variations, that sort of thing. So I just want to make sure that you keep that in mind as you hear the applicant's point of view, as you consider the staff's presentation, and as you make your decisions.
Thank you. Yes, of course. Okay, any more questions for staff? No more questions for staff. Do the applicant would like to come up? Okay, so I'll need you both to state your name.
Anthony Oakes, attorney for the applicant.
Okay, can you please spell your last name for a minute taker?
OCHS.
Okay.
Mark Kurinsky, Kurensky, principal with HKM Architects and Planners.
Okay, and do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Sure.
Yes, we do.
Great, thank you.
I spoke for Mark as well.
Okay.
First off, thank you guys so much for having us at this hearing. We're very excited to present our plan to this board. Ultimately, I just want to introduce ourselves to you guys. Berger Investment Group, who's currently under contract, they're an affiliated entity with B3 Companies and is managed by Simon Berger, who is here today. A real estate developer who has significant experience acquiring and completing residential multifamily developments. Some of the highlighted projects is the Glencoe Estates, a recently purchased and developed 12-acre site in Glencoe that was unsubdivided and has developed that into a 29 residential subdivision. Webster Place, it's a 14-unit new construction townhome community development in Highwood, Illinois, and Heritage Drive subdivision in Highland Park. Person developed the remaining 6 single-family residential lots located in the Heritage re-subdivision. And established, in that case, it was a broken homeowner association, established a new homeowner association for the homes therein. We also recently acquired approximately 36,000 square feet of property located in Highland Park off Green Bay Road and Glenview Avenue, and we have a planned unit development application for that project. So you will be seeing us again. Ultimately, it's our goal. We have experience taking over broken projects and taking them, working with the local municipality and taking them to completion. Just to introduce our development team, along with Berger Investment Group, we will be utilizing Kinsey Group as our general contractor, who's our general contractor at the Estates of Glencoe Development. HKM Architects and Planners, Mark Kurinsky is here to present with you. He's the president thereof. And Erickson Engineering Associates, they were the engineering group who worked on the initial 2006 civil engineering plans for this development. As communicated by staff on June 2nd, 2006, the City of Highland Park passed Ordinance 23-06, approving the development of the Laurel Park subdivision and that approved the construction at this site of 30 townhomes and one condominium building containing 12 residential units. There's also a development agreement between the city and the original developer that was recorded against the entire subdivision in June 2006 for this development. That was the original plat of subdivision for the development, and this was an original site plan for the 2006 development. Per the original development agreement, Laurel Park subdivision was to be completed in multiple phases, As communicated previously, only phase 1 has been completed. So as of today, only 12 out of the 30 townhomes are currently constructed. The undeveloped portion is blocked off by fencing, and concrete foundations that were previously installed or installed for the townhomes are currently installed in the ground. It's blocked off, but ultimately, what we plan on doing is assuming the obligations under the development agreement, modified as per our request as listed by staff, and completing this project as originally approved. Our second phase, the development agreement contemplated a second plat of subdivision to reflect future phases of construction. And this would be our proposed initial plat of subdivision for the second phase. And then we initially, with our initial submission, submitted a site plan that was more in line with the original site plan, with modification to account for modern design and updated construction. This was what was originally submitted. However, after submitting, we've been working with staff and we've been in communications with staff and with the existing HOA. I believe there are members in the audience who will wish to speak to this tonight about this project. And we've updated the site plan to address some of the comments we received. Specifically, as highlighted before, adding the drive aisle between the condominium building and the western townhomes up along Laurel Avenue. This would be egress only, and it would address, we believe, a lot of concerns regarding congestion within the park. I now hand this off to Mark Krinsky to talk really about our architectural design and design specifications for the site.
Okay.
This one. Yeah, let's do it back. Perfect. Good evening. So we got a call, let's see there. All right. So we got a call a while ago, said, would you like to work on the project in Highland Park? We said, which parcel? They said the one on Laurel. We said, again, because we've looked at this over the years as everybody else has. We said, what a great opportunity to finally get rid of that fence that's been up forever. And then the team said, yeah, there's a caveat. We're going to use the existing foundations. My whole office was like your wife, which was, are you really serious? Because other developers looked at it different ways. But they said, are you real serious? And we got a comfort level for the first step because they'd had a structural engineer go out and verify it. They also had, since then, we've actually had it scanned. So it's not that the structure and the concrete is intent, but that there's also the rebar in the right place, the structural stuff. Because candidly, our rears are on the line if we're going to design something and we want this thing to be where it is. So that was the first hurdle that we had. The second hurdle was we don't want to change anything more than we really need to because we're amending a PUD. We're not starting from scratch. We are amending the PUD. So the only places we changed is where we thought it was for the betterment of the project. Okay? And part of that has to do with the architecture. Part of it has to do with the layout and everything else. What that did was that set up, this is the existing plan. And we keep reiterating, the only thing that isn't a foundation out there is the big building in the upper left. Everything else is in. So in the storm trap that's to the left of that block is in because that storm trap, the stormwater management system for phase 1 is in. So the first thought was, okay, this will be easy. Nothing proves out to be as easy as we ever think it is. So all the other buildings, those 3 townhome buildings, the foundations are physically in the ground. The steps, you guys all know the site as well as I do. This site falls 30 or 40 feet as you go from McGovern to the west. The steps and the foundation are set. So the challenge for my team is we not only have to design buildings that fit on the structure that we're now comfortable with the foundation, but the steps are already pre-designed and predetermined. So that's what we started with on this whole thing. And then the last caveat was, okay, we're selling something in 2026, 2027, we need to hit today's market, and we like a contemporary and a modern feel because that's what people are looking for. So the next thing we did is, okay, this is getting to be a fun little project. Then, literally as of last week, we've been to the inclusionary zoning And some representatives from the HOA showed up in inclusionary zoning. And they voiced some of their concerns. We had a nice conversation out in the hall afterwards, which was productive, although a little noisy because sound carries in this old building. We had a conversation with them, and literally as of last week, and this plan is 48 hours old, they said, can we get a secondary egress point? This plan, we're amending the PUD. The plan was approved by fire department, by police, by the community. These people bought into it with a single point of access. We like to try and solve things, okay? We don't try to like say, okay, this is just, it is, so go. So we said, okay, we have foundations in for everything else. We've got one foundation, maybe we could move. So that big building in the upper left was the only foundation that wasn't there. The lot coverage isn't gonna change because lot coverage, as you just heard, is building square footage. We're not making that building any bigger. We're pushing it to the west, literally 9 feet. And in that 9 feet, we're trying to be creative. We may not be, everybody gets what they want, but we're trying to listen to everybody. That pushing 9 feet gets a one-way drive, a 12-foot wide drive, so we can have traffic egress to take away congestion from the main entrance. Keep in mind, it was approved with a single entrance. We're only talking 42 units total, which if a traffic consultant was here, he'd say that's not a lot. Everybody who drives say, yeah, but I live there. It is a lot because the time when 2 cars in the night. That's what we're trying to do. So that plan, literally, I think, Roddy, you got it, I think, yesterday. So that's how fresh. We're trying to listen. I know inclusionary zoning is not part of this. We showed them we've got 12 units in there. By inclusionary standards, we're supposed to have 2 2-bedrooms and 2 3-bedrooms. They said, well, can you do something better? We showed them, they said, can you do all 3s and maybe give us a 4? We showed them all 3 bedrooms and a 4-bedroom. They said, oh, maybe now we don't like the 4. Maybe it could be a really large living room. We're trying to work with everybody. But we have a lot of constraints here as well. So that's where we are. So, I mean, you can literally, if you see this clicking back and forth, that's the difference on the plan, okay? That may be really small on the plan, but I think it's gonna mean a lot to perceive these people here, or at least hope. It may not be exactly everything they want, but we're trying. So then it came to the architecture. Where we started with the architecture was the existing footprints and the existing foundations and those existing steps that are going on. And we looked at your design guidelines, we looked at your urban design guidelines, which actually don't apply to this lot. They apply to the north side of the street, but not the south side of the street. But ironically, there's a photograph in those guidelines of your homes here, because it's a good example on Laurel Avenue. So what do we want to do? We want to use rich materials. We have a flat roof, it's a modern design. We have rich materials, we have 2 different bricks. We have a metal panel system. We have a box back there, and my partner Eden would be happy to bring it up and pass it around if the time is right. We have real stucco, but you look at where we started. If you look at the original buildings, those original buildings were treated as individual units, as true row homes, not treated as a horizontal massing. They were treated as a vertical individual units. And that works really well as the buildings step down the site. That's what we're doing here. If you look at your design guidelines, what you guys really don't want is you don't want a flat plane. So we had a benefit because the footprints that are in ground now step forward and back. But we played on that even more. So we've got some of those metal panels. If you look at the far left of the building, that's a metal panel, 2-story box that sticks out. So we're really trying to break up that verticality and really create these neat little accents. To further it, if you see on the second building, the 4th, there's a little railing up there. We've added a little porch on the Laurel units to break up that vertical facade. But we're real excited about this because we think it really complies with the character of the design standards. We also think it fits within the neighborhood. If you go a block north of here and you look at some of the newer, larger buildings, and if you look at a lot of the houses that's gone on in Highland Park, that is the play right now, is a little contemporary, a little more modern. We also think that, with due respect, we think it fits within the neighborhood because that existing drive axis acts as a demarcation line. If we tried to match the old architecture, one, I probably wouldn't be here because they'd say, no, you have to draw something modern. I'd say, no, you have to draw, anyway. We think there's, oh, sorry. I was hoping you guys weren't listening. The road is a natural demarcation. The road is a natural dividing line. If we tried to match their architecture, to some degree, you couldn't because it's 20-year-old architecture. It'd be like trying to match an a wallpaper that you can't buy anymore, and we're trying to match and get something close. We would still notice when we were there that these units were different. So the back units, ignore the sign for the moment, but there's the materials, and I said we've got samples there. They're all rich materials. You know, in-house, in the office, we are calling this sort of a Lincoln Park modern. If you drive and you see the richness of the materials, and it's all about the richness of materials and the proportions and scale of all those components as they go together. This is the back units. There's 2 units that face south. Again, these are the footprints we were given. So the same architecture. The only thing that's different is those 2 balconies that I showed you on Laurel. We purposely don't have them here. The reason being, these homes face south, but we back up to single family and lots that's their backyard. So we didn't think it was appropriate to put those balconies in somebody else's backyard. So we took them out of these 2 buildings in the south. But other than that, it's the same strong architecture. You can see there's units that are similar, but it's an asymmetrical, repeating pattern, if that makes any sense. Then we got to the big building. We designed this second, okay? Because this is the building where we had a little more flexibility. We didn't have a foundation in the ground. So we had an opportunity. You look at your design guidelines, we're not a corner lot, but we're pretty much a corner lot. Because you come in and you hit Deerfield and you're starting to come along, you've got that park there, the public park, then we've got our open space for this lot, and you can really see this as you're coming around that corner and you're coming up the hill. So what we did was we treated that as the corner. So that whole dark gray is a panel, is one type of a metal panel. And that's where we put the sign, which we can have a conversation about, but we think it's really fun. And it's a pretty urban in character. But we also took square footage out of the building. Because that third floor, if you notice, we just took the whole 3rd floor out. Okay, so we lost, for sale square footage because we thought it was better for the whole project. So, because otherwise it could have been the full mass. And if you look at the old plans, it was a very symmetrical building, entry off the middle and the like. So it's the same materials. Here, we're still treating that verticality, but a little less strong. Because ironically, obviously the units, everybody's on a horizontal plane. 4-sided architecture, we've got different sized balconies. We also are not afraid, and it's actually a relief from our standpoint, to have some blank walls for a change. We do a lot of different residential and all that, and there's an old saying that, some of the architecture looks like an ice cube tray that's been tilted up. It's constant fenestration and there's just no relief. And so we're actually encouraged by some of these blank walls because we think it makes the architecture stronger in its entirety. The first floor is parking. We'll get to the landscape plan briefly. But even what we're trying to do there, the right side is the entrance, the lobby. So everybody knows where it is. As the site keeps popping down, the lobby there's a front little patio, public patio right there, and there's stairs going down to it because we keep picking up the grade. It's a great way to accent the hello in the front door for it. Those, even the air handlers for the garage mimic the windows above. So we're really trying to create 4-sided architecture. Another side, this is the side that actually faces the park. You can see we have balconies on 3 sides. We purposely didn't put balconies on the 4th side, the east side, because that was the one closest to the townhomes. Now, we may be 9 feet further away, but we still think that's probably the right approach. Same materials, there's the Laurel lofts. We think that if you measure the box of the letters themselves, that we think that complies with the code. Although then if you look at the code housing, I think we need a height variation because it's higher. But we think it really enhances the whole project. Landscape plan, we did the same thing. The first thing, try to do no harm. We looked at what was there in phase one, and we looked at what it did, and we're trying to respect that. So if you go and look at phase one, and even the picture that staff showed, there's an open 4-foot high, 3.5 foot, 4-foot high black ornamental fence along Laurel Avenue. So we're continuing that down in front of those townhomes. What we're doing is we're changing the landscape palette. And if you look at the landscape on phase one, they have landscaping at the front, a foundation planting, and then they have landscaping by that fence. We're doing the same thing. Although what we're doing is bringing in more native plants. We're using a lot of ornamental grasses and things that are contemporary and fitting with that modern. You can see we have an extensive row of trees along the south. That's that area where we did put the balconies in because of the neighbors and respect for the neighbors. And that's because that is the front door of those townhomes or row homes. Other than changing the plant palette, there's the same richness and strength, but it's relating to the architecture now. And details and plants called out. The other thing is to the upper left, there's a big natural area. That's actually where the existing storm trap or storm management system is underground. And there we want to go in and do non-mow grasses. People use the terms, like pollinator gardens and things like that. But the idea is that, we can do that there. Now, we may lose 9 feet of it if we're in agreement that we're going to create that exit road. But that's what it is. That is basically the overall in terms of what we've got. We have other slides, we have samples. We can get into the details on why we're asking for relief on parking. There's a couple of changes we made there because when we looked at the prior plan, we don't think the parking in the approved prior plan functioned. So we took one stall out of the outside parking. There were, I think, 12 below the condo building, and now there's 11. And it's because, and I can get into the weeds if you'd like on that, but I think at some point we'd like to listen to the audience and any of the petitioners as well, so. I'm gonna try and be quiet now.
All right, do we have any questions from the commission for the applicant? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open this to public comment. So if you're a person from the public who would like to speak, please come up and stand by the podium. We'll line up along the windows, and then I'll have to swear you each in, and you'll need to spell your name. We also are limiting public comment to 3 minutes each, and if we would like you to not repeat testimony. So if there's like somebody you agree with, you can just come up and say you agreed with them.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry,
If
yes.
there are a number of people that would like to speak, perhaps you want to swear everyone in at once?
I can
Just
do
a
that too.
Suggestion.
Right now
I
we
just
have one
don't know if
person.
there are, but there might be. You may want to ask. So-
We can do that.
So if folks could stand and just, if they'd like to
Make
be-
their way to the
Yeah,
windows
yeah,
there.
There you go.
It's better if they line up better.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you please look at me, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, please go ahead. Please state, when you come, state your name and spell your last name for a minute
Thank
tape.
you. My name is Eric Spitzer. I've been a resident of Highland Park for 60 years, and I am also one of the owners and resident of the Laurel Park homes that have already been constructed. We in Highland Park are fortunate to have a mayor, a city manager, city council, of which we have some in attendance, a community department, and commissions that are very concerned with the health, the welfare, and the safety of our community. In this case, we believe that the property owners, the developers, and the proposed construction companies that are involved in the Laurel Park development are submitting a plan to the city that would negatively compromise the basic hard rock rules that would govern the development within our city. The property owners, developers, and construction company have met with each other over the past 6 months. They have met with the Planning Commission over the last 3 months. Fortunately, because of the rules of the city, the Planning Department notified the residents within 400 feet, I believe it is, of an upcoming meeting that would propose a plan permit of a permit that was issued in 2006. With that knowledge of living in that area, we are well aware that that permit is flawed today. It's flawed in many ways. In this case, the HOA was notified by registered mail from the city about 3 weeks ago. So we really have not had the sufficient amount of time to discuss some of the topics that came up today. We did have a homeowners meeting combined with the proposed builders and developers, and we voiced 3 major concerns, although there are many more. You have mentioned some of them that we touched on but really didn't get involved with. The inclusionary housing. We touched on the parking. But most importantly, I went to the fire department and had a discussion with the chief of the fire department. He and I reviewed this exact slide. He is unsure that the current equipment that the fire department owns would be able to get in to this development with the current ingress and egress, of which there is only one. He's not sure that the hook and ladder would be able to make the turns in either direction. Furthermore, he as well doesn't understand how this could have been approved in 2006 with only one entrance and exit. We discussed the opportunity of putting another entrance and exit in one of 3 locations. So I'm hoping that there's a representative of the fire department here or someone in the planning department that looks at these items.
They will, and we've always, in any plan that comes through here that's large enough, we do require the fire department to look at it and provide a turn-by-turn
Great.
plan for us.
Furthermore, we share your concerns about the inclusionary housing. We share your concerns about the foundations that are there that are 19 years old. We share your concerns about the inclusionary housing all in the one building and not in the independent housing. We share your concerns and the fire chiefs regarding the ingress and egress. We are not interested in one in and out and one out. That doesn't fit what we believe for this type of residence development. In addition to that, there is no guest parking, no service parking in this whole complex. So what is not uncommon, and although unless you live there, you wouldn't know this, that guest parkers staying overnight pull up to the garage door and take up half of that entryway into the home, into the garage.
Right, so they're in the drive aisle.
So they are blocking. If you have a car, you can get by there. But no truck, no service truck, no fire truck, no police, no emergency, no ambulance would be able to fit there. And that is a common practice. Every night, there's at least 3 or 4. So this plan is a failure. It needs to be addressed by the commission. And we have full confidence that if we had an opportunity to speak at some of these meetings that you've held over the last 3 months and they've held over the last 6 months, we could have given you some input that would help to benefit the development of this area. Thank you for your concern, and thank you for the opportunity to address you.
Thank you, and please understand that for the commission itself, this is our first look at these plans as well. So we're not involved on the day-to-day planning at the planning department. So this is our first look at these as well, and we will you know, we certainly spend a lot of time discussing any plan that does come to us.
Well, many of the requests from the developer has already been looked at and approved by the planning division.
Okay,
So we're concerned about that.
understandable.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Next.
much.
Do you want to fix the microphone for her?
My name is Joyce Gerstein. I'm the president of the existing HOA. We did meet and, with the developer and the board, and the homeowners, on the 13th of this month and discussed in depth the problem of the ingress and egress chaos, because you're talking about adding 40-some new cars to this area, and it's going to create a problem. The developer has said he would be happy to move the building, the condo building, west to accommodate a one-way egress onto Laurel. That might be sufficient. I'm not a traffic planner. It might work. That's up to you as the commission to decide that. I don't know if that's enough. We're looking at the safety of all the people who are presently living there and the safety of the people who will buy into this development. And it's very important that chaos is not the rule. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, what's your name,
Thank you
please?
for your time. Jerry Dardick,
Okay,
D-A-R-D-I-C-K.
Okay,
I'm here to support everything that Eric brought up. I don't think he missed a lick.
okay,
I'm here to say we need to slow this down. We need time to evaluate this. I'm a developer. I'm a school architect. I'm not opposed to putting something up. I am worried about safety. We live there. You must know the congestion we have. You think the art fair brings parking problems. We have these parking problems every day. We've added condos, apartment buildings. We can't even find places to park during the day, okay? A visitor on holidays for Passover or whatever, sometimes we gotta tell the families, you gotta carpool, because there's not enough spaces. And truth about the backyards, everybody parks in the doorways, in the garage doors. You can't get by, and you could get by, it's like back out, back out, back out. All I'm saying is there's some issues here. I don't want to kill it, but I think we need to slow it down and evaluate what's really going on here. Thank you.
thank you.
Just one comment, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes,
I
please.
just want to make sure that folks don't conflate two things. So the Housing Commission has had discussions about this matter. The Housing Commission doesn't make an approval of any planned development. This commission makes recommendations to the City Council. What the Housing Commission makes recommendations on is the inclusionary housing portion of a development, whatever that development
City Council.
ultimately turns out to be. So that recommendation will be brought to you folks as well as part of the recommendation when you make one to the City Council. So nothing has been approved. What, in terms of staff's involvement, is we meet with lots of folks. We've met with lots of folks about this parcel over the years. Lots of interest. I think someone alluded to that. Even some of the people here have been a part of other teams that have met. And so what we were referring to and what I was referring to earlier is with regard to the deficiency of affordable units in the existing 12 units that are there. They're currently out of compliance with the zoning code. The actual HOA that currently exists is in violation of the zoning code. Just want to make that clear. So we were saying that we think that it makes some sense to move past that portion, that phase one, and look at phase two from the inclusionary housing standpoint as a separate phase that should meet the zoning code, but because this is a planned development in totality, will still require relief for the portion of the inclusionary housing requirement that was not met by the existing 12 units currently there. Just want to be clear about that.
Understood.
That's what staff is at on that. Thank you.
Understood. All right, next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian, B-R-I-A-N, last name Frankel, F-R-A-N-K-L. And I live at 859 Laurel, which is across the street from the proposed condominium building. I apologize because I have a lot of questions. I only received notice that this hearing was going to take place when I received a certified piece of mail on Saturday, so I'm playing a bit of catch up. I echo a lot of what people just said. I moved to Highland Park about 4 years ago. I chose downtown Highland Park because I like the density. I like that particular area that I live in. And, you know, I'm in favor of some sort of development there. I also would say that the lot currently there is a real eyesore. So I'm encouraged that these folks want to do something. But I also would say that I'm not sure that the plan adequately addresses parking. I don't think it adequately addresses how busy Laurel is. People go up and down the street, you know, at 40 miles an hour, even though it's a 25 mile an hour zone. So I do have some questions about the new cuts that they want to put in Laurel. I also would like to hear more from the staff on why they're recommending the height increase. And that, if I understood it, it's 17 feet above what is allowed by the plan. So I just would be interested in why they're recommending that. Finally, I also wanted to know, I understand the plan is to move the condo building to the west, and whether there are any setback requirements under the plan from the public space that's currently there. That's, again, a question for the staff. All right, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's take a minute and maybe we can address some of those questions. How close would the building be to the park, and is there a setback requirement we need to be looking at?
So staff is reviewing this. I know we just recently received it. I haven't added the updated plan, but I'm gonna pull up setbacks for you, Chairman, just 1 second. I'm gonna tell you on the west, that if you're looking at, this meets, okay, I don't have it here, but I believe, if you look at it, is it 70 feet, Mark? Is that correct? Because I'm just going off of memory now. And how much is it moving to the west approximately? Okay, sorry.
Get back and forth.
Okay.
Because they can't hear us, just the mic.
Can you hear me if I talk real loud?
You need to come up
You
to
need
the
to come up and
microphone.
speak to the microphone so that it gets into our system.
And just to be clear, because I was taking notes, and I want to make sure I understand what any questions are so they can be followed upon if we don't have an answer today. Was the question, what is the required setback to the west?
Yes, and will it encroach upon the park? And then the next question I'm going to ask is about the height of the building and where the 17 feet came from.
Okay. So what I'm gonna do is for the next meeting, I'm gonna have this with the new plan, and I'm gonna look into the look into the setbacks and note that down. In regard to the height, one of the things that the developer was working on is a more modernistic contemporary style, and you see a lot of times nowadays, we see homes with, higher ceilings. And based on their design, that's what they're requesting. So staff is supporting that, but I will turn it over to the architect.
Okay.
Director Fontaine.
So just to be clear, it is the applicant's request. It's not staff saying that they need to do that or anything like that. Now, in the context of this location, what staff and, what they're looking at is across the street, there are two 4-story, 51-foot tall buildings. One's an apartment building, one's a condo. They were recently approved and completed in the late teens, mid to late teens. So in terms of context, those are across the street from that building they're proposing. They are saying, the applicant is saying, not staff, the applicant is saying that they would like to create units, what are called the higher ceiling units. They're more value. A lot of people that heard about 9-foot ceilings. Now the trend is even taller, even higher ceilings. It gives a more spacious feel for an apartment or a condo unit, and it's desirable. So that's what's driving that, is my understanding, is the market that they're trying to hit with their units. And the context that they're working within is looking right across the street, a 251-foot 4-story building.
No, that's fine. I understand that. I just didn't know if that variation had changed because our requirements had changed in the last 20 years.
In terms of the height,
right?
We'll get back to you on that. I don't think that that's necessary. I think they've changed the building, not that the code has changed.
Okay.
But we'll verify that. I think
Okay.
it's because they've changed the building.
And the architect would like to answer that, so please go ahead.
I don't want to, I'm trying to provide some facts. Okay, so one of them, in terms of the height, the building plans that we saw for the condo that was never built had a height of 45 feet.
Okay.
So I don't know where the 39 came from. I'm not saying it isn't legit, but 20 years ago or 19 years ago, the plan was a 45 foot. We think we're at 52 feet in height. So the exponential change is different. In terms of fire, it's a very legit question. Literally this afternoon on my desk from our civil engineer, I've got a turning radius that shows that your current vehicular, your fire truck can come in the existing entrance, can not only turn east to the existing homes, but it can also turn west. That allows it to go east and then back up past and then go back out. So it can make that 3-point turn. That's just the existing conditions. And again, I'm just trying to help you in terms of what was going on in terms of that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next up to have a public comment. So you can come up, but I need to swear you in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth with your right hand, please?
I do.
Thank you.
All right.
Please state your name and
Susan
spell it.
Schenker.
Okay. Can you spell it?
SCHENCKER.
I have a real problem with such a contemporary look.
Can you speak into the
I
microphone?
have a real problem, and I know other people do too, with the very contemporary look. Across the street, which were built, he said, in the mid-teens, so that takes us maybe 6 or 7 years ago, they were able to make those buildings not as contemporary and filling in, it just looks so much better the way those buildings were built on Laurel. I have a problem with the signage. I think it looks like a hotel. And I just, the whole contemporary thing is just so out of context with what they have. And across the street, they are red brick buildings, and it does kind of go together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, did you swear in, I think?
I did. I can do it again if you like.
No, that's okay.
Not a
I would just
problem.
need your name and spell your last name, please.
My name is David Ruby, R-U-B-Y. I live at 833 Deerfield Road. I'm glad they're kind of doing development there. Because unfortunately, the north side of Deerfield Road, we had to deal with 17 years. A big mound of dirt that was never taken care of, flooding in some of our yards, okay? And I respect the HOA for voicing their opinion. But what I don't care about is the architects and everybody else called the HOA. They never came even the city, to the 4 families that still own single-family homes on the north side of Deerfield Road. Okay? For 17 years, we've dealt with construction debris, big mound of dirt that makes yards flood back there now. And I'm assuming, this is gonna probably go through, that grading will be done right. Okay, it won't interfere with the privacy of approximately the 4 single-family people that still live there. Okay? And some of these properties, particularly mine, my rear garage wall is actually the property line because I'm in an old house. Am I gonna have access to the rear of that garage if I need maintenance or repair? Okay, I'm glad you guys are doing something about it. Okay, but there's still 4 individual families that live there that need respect. In our opinion, it matters.
Thank you. Okay, any more public comment? All right, so I think what we're looking for is a continuation of the meeting, Carl.
So for dates for that the commission can consider, either the April 15th or the May 6th Plan and Design Commission meeting?
That would be up to the applicant and to the plan and design department as to how quickly they can be ready.
What I would advocate for is that the commission articulate, just clearly, what are we looking at in terms of revisions for coming back?
Okay.
What additional information do you need, et cetera, so forth? That would be helpful. And then we can choose the date and, in collaboration with them, because I think Carl's saying we could do either date. It depends on what's needed to come back, though.
Okay, so does the applicant seem to understand what we're looking for? There seems to be a problem with the parking and the accessibility in the drive aisles with people parking there who maybe shouldn't be. I don't know what the rules are. Huh? Or that's an HOA problem, I don't know.
So one thing, Madam Chair, if I may, from a staff
Just a second.
perspective, so
Yes.
we'll need to understand the parking in terms of how guest parking will be accommodated
Yes.
or not. So that needs to be articulated, and we'll just take a closer look at that, ask that the applicant do that as well. And then in terms of any, templates for fire, emergency access, et cetera, they said they had looked at that. We'd like to see it now with the new plan with the extra outlet there, and we'll work on that. And yes, we do review that with the fire department. Fire Prevention Bureau is actually in community development, so yep, that is correct. Fire hydrant situation, all that type of stuff will be dealt with as well. In terms of the look of the building, in terms of the architecture, et cetera, so forth, there's comments here tonight of some concern. They're proposing more contemporary look. I will say that if you look across the street, the townhouses blend very well with the 2 4-story, 51-foot high buildings. That was the same developer, just 2 different time periods, actually in the late aughts or whatnot for the first part, and then in the mid-teens, as was said before. Genuine materials are things that are sought for in the design guidelines, as you can see across the street. You also have the townhouses that are the 12 homes that are the folks that are here tonight as well to look at. And so context is important. I did mention at the beginning, it's not necessarily a strict requirement that it be, but if you look in your standards and how it fits into the context does matter. And so you need to make that determination on a greater or lesser extent that this should be more conforming with the existing look or not. And I think that's an important consideration in this.
If I could, because I think I heard from more than one person that there's negotiations still going on with the HOA. There's still people who just got noted. I think the longer date may be the better one because there seem to be plenty of things to iron out.
Okay, I agree. So the later date would be what?
May.
May 6th.
May the 6th.
So if I could, Madam Chairman, I would move, we continue public hearing 2025-00033 to our May 6th meeting.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, voice vote or?
Voice.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays?
Okay, so this item has been continued to May 6th, is that correct, Carl? May 6th?
Yeah, that is correct. I was just
7
confirming that.
PM, this room, City Hall. There'll be no new notice, so it's May 6th. The same public hearing will be continued at that time. Staff will be communicating with the applicant on some outstanding items that we talked about here tonight, and we encourage the applicant to work with neighbors and discuss further the matters that are before us this evening, okay?
Understood. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, can I please note, as you leave, please keep your commenting and talking to a minimum as you exit, because otherwise we can't hear in our own meeting.
I thought you were back.
Oh, he's back.
Man, you're quick.
They can't hear me. Get it now.
Use the gavel.
I'm asking, we still have business to do tonight, and we were very patient to wait through all your comments, which I'm happy to do, but I'm asking you as you leave to please keep it down, because the sound travels up the stairwell and into this room, and we can't hear. And we want to give every project that comes through here the same consideration that we gave yours. All right? Thank you so much for coming. We do enjoy seeing the public at our meetings. All right, the last item, or almost last item, is a public meeting 2025-ZTA-004 to consider a section 150.405 land use interpretation related to towing and impound lot uses. Mr. Burhop, are you
Thank you.
presenting to us?
I am indeed, and this is a public meeting. It is not a public hearing.
I think I said meeting.
Oh, no, yeah, you did. I'm just saying you don't, yeah.
Right.
No, you
need
were
to read
correct.
Oh, I'm not gonna read the thing,
No,
yeah.
you were correct. I was just reiterating, so
Thank you.
you don't have to do the opening thing. And I actually, as I'm looking at my slides here, and as I'm thinking about the last time we did one of these, and as I see new faces, not new to me, but new on the commission, I actually think I just want to pull open the section of code real quick.
That's fine.
Thank you, Carl. So yeah, what is a section?
Yeah, because
405?
this doesn't, okay, I'll zoom in and of course it gets out of kilter, okay. And of course, I had this in the, I hope that's legible. And of course I had this in the packet, but, so this is a section 150.405 interpretation of uses consideration. The last time this came up was a few years ago, 2 or 3. It's 2025 now, 3 or so years ago. I'll just read it real quickly because I hope it's, I don't know if it's legible. Any uses not specifically listed as shown in the table of allowable uses contained in this article as having a P located after such use, or in the alternative after a public hearing for a special use permit as set forth in Article 14 for those uses having a C located after such use shall be deemed prohibited. However, the City Council, upon recommendation of the Plan and Design Commission, shall have the right to permit any other use not specifically listed in the said table of allowable uses without formal amendment, provided that the proposed use is similar to and compatible with those uses permitted in the zoning district in question and is consistent with the purposes of this chapter. Provided that subparagraph A, public meeting, such determination by the City Council shall be made at a regularly scheduled public meeting of that body, and subparagraph B, public record. A record shall be kept of each additional uses allowed, and such record shall be available for public inspection. So that is the provision that we are using. That is the authority that we are asking. This is a staff request that we are asking the commission and then ultimately the council to consider. Okay, this is not that long of a presentation. So this is for a towing and impound lot type use. Now, that's not a phrase in our code. That's a phrase, honestly, I just used. So this is about towing services maybe with or without an impound lot. In our code, those are not an allowed principal use. They can't be. They're not listed anywhere in section 150.490. So they're not an allowed principal use. What triggered this, is there's a tenant at 2868 Skokie Valley Road has requested a towing and impound lot as a principal use. Now, to be clear, this here is not about that person's specific request. This is about the use in general. And here I actually did quote part of what I just read. In order for this or other to be, or others who could conceivably come forward, in order to allow consideration of this land use, the Plan and Design Commission, the City Council should consider if the use is similar to and compatible with those uses permitted in the zoning district in question, is consistent with the purposes of this chapter. Recommendation, and again, this was all in the staff report. If the commission considers a towing and impound lot use similar to and compatible with those uses permitted in the B3, so B3 is the zoning district that happens to be, again, for this tenant that came forward, but again, this is not about that specific request. Staff would recommend that the most similar and compatible use would be an open storage yard. An open storage yard is a conditional use in the B3 and I zoning districts, requires a special use permit. The B3 is the highway commercial and the I is the light industrial district. Those are the districts that broadly run up and down the Highway 41 corridor. Towing services and impound lots generally are open yard storage of vehicles and towing trucks. If by allowing this as a conditional use with the SUP, this would allow the commission and the council to consider screening, exterior lighting, and other impacts. I just put in the definition there for what an open storage yard is, and that was also in the staff report. An area of real estate where on goods, materials, and other chattels are stored in the open as opposed to being stored in buildings or structures. I'm not going to read this. This was in the staff report. This was the B3 highway commercial definition from the zoning code, and this was the I light industrial district. I can, of course, put them up there, read through them if requested, but they were in the staff report. Zoning analysis. So staff reached out to the Highland Park Police Department. Again, this was in the staff report, and our police department says they use local towing services. Towing services must be able to be on scene within 30 minutes or less. Therefore, proximity is an important consideration. Crash scenes must be cleared as soon as possible. Our police department indicated they use a rotation of 3 to 4 local Highland Park-based towing services. Those towing services that are utilized by the police department must submit an annual request and are reviewed by the police. That's not to suggest all towing services have to submit to the police, but those that are called by the police do have to be reviewed by the police. The towing services used by the police have been approved as accessory uses to a principal use. And so that gets me into the distinction between principal versus accessory. So there currently are towing services in the city. In fact, we had a table, and I think my next slide, which is my last slide, is a table of those uses. Those uses are accessory to a principal use, usually a repair shop. Car gets damaged, you gotta tow it, and then it gets repaired. But that's different than if it's a principal use. Yeah, and then this is just a list of, that's kind of small print, I apologize. Again, this is in the publicly posted packet. And that's just a list of the current towing services in the city that we were able to find in our records. And I think I tried to compare to a Google search as well. Yes, that is the request. I can take questions, thank you. Oh, and I should add one more thing, my apologies. There is something that I kind of prepared as findings of fact in case the commission was ready to make an adoption today. I do want to add that, thank you.
All right, does the commission have any questions for staff? Commissioner Anchuk.
Oh, go ahead. I just had a comment to make, if that's okay. So we're saying, look, there's a person's come to us saying, hey, this is a principal use I'd like to do. We have these in the city, but they're accessory, and we don't have it in the use table. Okay, so it could just be, no, it's just not allowed. Or, as we had brought it to you and to the council, is this considered similar to these this use that Carl's put up here, which is the open storage yard. We think that the open storage yard use, because it's a conditional use in the B3 and I districts, which seem to be appropriate districts for such uses, would provide enough controls to judge the location, the specific location, is it appropriate? And to allow the council, the commission and council to put reasonable conditions that would involve screening and such for such uses. And so that's the consideration before you. And know that we would not, we'd want to be clear in this 405 interpretation of uses to note that this is not intended to be a vehicle junkyard. Okay, an impound lot is not a junkyard. Somebody's car is parked illegally at a multifamily building, right? You've seen the signs, don't park here or else JJ's towing will get you. They got to go somewhere. These are the places that they would go. It's different than a junkyard where my car is a piece of junk here, take it $250 and you can sell scrap parts all day long and that car's out there for a decade before all the parts are gone. That's not what we're talking about. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I had a question.
We're still on Commissioner Imchik's question.
Thank you. A quick question on whether there's additional impacts that might be associated with the towing, like, use of the property versus an open storage yard. That's really the only thing that I could see that be different between the two is the fact that you're doing the towing back and forth, or I guess just to the location and then you're done.
There could be more trips or fewer. It depends on what's being stored in the storage yard, right? So it could be any types of materials. Landscaping companies may have more trips during the summer by a lot than an impound lot. It's difficult to say, but what I can say as part of a special use consideration, you can talk about the specific operations at the location in question, both in terms of screening and also in terms of trips and how it's operated, what hours, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting, noise, yep.
Right, and I would just also add, if I may, Chair, that the land use that staff had put up there at the open storage yard, I'll just reiterate, that's a conditional use and only the B3 Highway Commercial and I-Light Industrial District. And those are districts that, again, are along Highway 41 and other arterial type roads. So those are not commercial business, those are not commercial districts that get into like the downtown or the Roger Williams area or other neighborhood downtown. So I just want to be clear on that as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Fenner,
Yeah.
question.
Do we have a need for this? I mean, I feel like it's been fine the way it's been, right? With the different towing companies taking it someplace else. Is there all of a sudden a need for an impound lot?
We've shown that there are accessory, as an accessory use, we have a few, not as a principal use. Yeah. And so generally speaking, I would say that when you're looking at your zoning code, you want to try to provide the uses that to serve the needs of the population, okay? And so you saw what the police said. The police aren't advocating for or against, they're just making comments about what is, right? This is a practical use. Our use table doesn't have it in it. And so if you don't think it's similar to an open storage yard, the commission could say, we don't think so, that's just fine. And then it's just not an allowed use. Or the commission could say, this use is sufficiently different from what you're saying that it warrants its own definition, its own regulations, and its own use in the use table. Maybe what staff is saying, we didn't think so, we think we're sufficiently covered by a conditional use permit under this moniker. You may disagree.
Thanks.
So does that mean we'll be changing the zoning text for open storage yard to add towing an impound lot? Or are we adding like a separate?
Would not change the text. It's an interpretation that would be put in the record as an interpretation that we would then use to administer the code.
Yeah, if this proceed, like, again, as the director pointed out, commission has a couple different options, depends which option you choose. But if the option is chosen to use this section 150.405, if the commission agrees that open storage yard makes the most sense, then this would go to the city council as a recommendation. Then at the city council, if the city council agreed, that would be adopted by resolution drafted by a corporation council. That's how, and then that's the documented interpretation.
Okay.
And that would be an official interpretation that we would then be bound to follow going forward with such matters.
Commissioner Henry has a question.
Yeah, I'm more of a statement, I guess. It seems to me that the real issue here is the impound lot aspect of this thing. Most collision outfits, and we have in our packet 5 outfits locally that do towing already as ancillary or accessory, as an accessory use to their car repair or car collision. What is of greater importance, so the towing part of it frankly doesn't even bother me a whole lot. The question is, do we want to interpret or suggest interpreting open storage yard as being an impound lot? Like, where Lincoln Towing, the famous Lincoln Towing would take their cars. Lincoln Park Pirates, right, exactly.
If I may, Madam Chair, this is a good distinction, because while we do have those other accessory uses that you talked about, they're related to an automotive shop.
Right.
So if I park in your condo building's parking lot and you guys tow me, that's not going to a repair shop, right? So I just want to make clear that I understand we have accessory. So we're not necessarily fully taken care of, is what I'm saying.
Right.
You don't typically go to a repair shop because you illegally parked in a condo building, is what I'm saying.
Right.
They go to an impound lot.
Which is,
right,
Director, which is the point that I'm
okay,
making. I don't see the towing as being a significant part of it. The question is, do we want to interpret open storage yards as allowing an impound lot?
Yes.
As a conditional use, which means, to the point that staff has made, which means that anybody who wants to have a lot like that, the towing business is one thing, but anybody who wants to have a lot like that would have to come to this commission with an application to say, we want to have an impound lot. And yeah, and then we would figure out on a recommendation to the council, what kind of to the point of the report, what kind of fencing we would want, what kind of hours we might want, and those kinds of conditions. So that to me is the greater issue. And do we see that as being an impound lot as being a blemish on what our vision is of Highland Park, I suppose?
And the open storage, an area of real estate whereon goods, cars, are stored in the open. I mean, that can't be any clearer to me than an impound lot meets that definition.
Yeah, I agree. I think it could be folded into open storage yard. And I don't think that so many people are gonna come that they need that they want to start a business of an impound lot, that we need to make it easier for them. I don't have a problem with it being an SUP, because I think each case will be individual. And like you said, it will have to, we'll have to discuss for each use, proper screening, lights, whatever. So I don't.
And location.
And location. Right.
I mean, is this the appropriate location, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I hope it wouldn't serve as an incentive to the police to give out more parking tickets and to tow more cars.
No, nothing been said about that.
I like where your head goes, yeah.
At least you'll know where to find your car. It'll be somewhere in Highland Park.
Any comments on this side of me for the, okay, so.
I don't think it's a leap.
So you've got findings of, would we call these findings of fact already? Yes. So we would be looking for a motion to approve the findings of fact that are listed here. And adopting the findings of fact to approve to send to city council for approval.
That's correct. And while this is not a public hearing, you can certainly take testimony from the audience if there's any.
No, is there any public?
Here, I do have a question. What is the B3 zoning district, just
Can you pull
to
up
be
the zoning,
exact?
let's pull up the zoning map, Carl.
Oh, the zoning
Yeah,
map. So
why not?
it's the B3
I mean,
Highland.
the I
Yeah,
understand.
and we'll
What
show
is
you,
the
we'll
B3?
just pull up the zoning map, that's absolutely appropriate.
Already have it up. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Okay, that's okay. I had it up earlier.
Endless open tab.
Yeah.
The zoning map.
Yeah.
Just lives there.
It's bookmarked on every single browser, yeah.
It's like where all the car dealerships are.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Just let it populate here. I clicked on it.
Yeah, it takes a little bit.
I've had the fun pleasure of going to the impound lot.
Oh, God.
I always like to use the,
That's the worst. That's like the huge one, right? On like Western or Damon
Yeah.
or something.
Populate. You want to do the My
brutal.
GIS?
And I had a friend's card, I got lower whacker, and then I dropped them there.
I never understood why it takes so long.
Luckily, my dad's like, go under.
Use my GIS.
You guys upgraded over here.
Just come stop.
So can I make the motion then while we wait, if I may, Madam Chair?
I don't know why this isn't populating.
Just use my GIS.
Okay.
It's just.
I think you could make a motion, so we could even get a second and then continue our
It's the
discussion.
discussion. If I may, I would like to move, we adopt the findings of fact recommending the city council approve the land use interpretation in said findings of fact related to towing and impound lot uses.
I'll say, there you go.
Okay, so we have a motion from Vice Chair Kirch, and we have a second from Commissioner Mantos. Any more discussion while we're waiting for B3 to pull up, just in time?
So B3 is basically the Skokie Highway corridor?
Yeah, so let me start off from the north. Yeah, so it follows the Highway 41, it's the purple.
Between the right-of-way of the train right-of-way, Carl, is that right?
New car or somebody else.
Right.
Yep. And the highway right-of-way.
Yeah, and remember if it ends up in certain locations, it'll trigger a PUD per prior policy considerations.
And then it flips to the other side.
Yeah, with the dealership.
Over there, and that's near, what street is it, Park Avenue
Yeah,
West?
Park Avenue.
Yeah, so where the former Staples, now Dinks is, and, right, and the dealership's over there. And then the I district, as you can see, goes right down to, you know, all the way down, right? Yes, so look up, and then B3 starts again in the
Crossroads.
Crossroads,
Yep.
correct.
Okay, so if there's no more discussion, can you call the roll, please, Joel? I think we can, we need to call the roll for this one, right?
Yes, you do. Well, you wanted to have more discussion though, or no?
I don't think there's any more discussion.
Forgive me, trustee, but was there any public
Yeah,
testimony?
and did we?
That's got to get to the potato chips.
Okay, sorry, just making sure. The hour draws late for me, I apologize,
Sorry?
Chair. I said the hour draws late for me, I apologize.
Yeah, that's all right. All right, so Director Fontaine, can you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Incheck.
Aye.
Commissioner Fatner.
Aye.
Commissioner Nanis.
Aye.
Commissioner Henry.
Aye.
Commissioner Mantis.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kirsch.
Aye.
And Chair Moore.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion carries. This item is recommended to council for consideration, that it is a similar use. And thank you very much. And like you said, should we get anyone interested in doing this, they will be back if the council approves for a conditional use permit before this body and on to council as well. All right, thank you. Take care.
On to other business. Do we have an administrative design review update?
No, there are none. No.
Okay, and it looks like our next regular meeting will be held on April 1st, 2025, and it will be a special meeting at the Marine at 1201 Park Avenue West, Highland Park. Do not be confused as I was. It is not the Moraine Hotel or the Hotel Moraine as
Correct.
in Highland. This is the rec center, senior center, former country club location where we have met previously.
Right.
And then, go ahead.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you for stating that just clearly. We will make sure that in our reminders, and as Carl has already, in parentheses, we say formally the Highland Park Country Club, just so that no one gets confused.
Especially not your chair. Okay, because your chair would. Oh, I'm gonna go up to the Marine Hotel in Highwood. All right, do we have a case briefing?
Yes. Yes, Madam Chair, if I may. So we did have a few items that went to city council on March 10th. The item with regard to the sign variation that had been recommended for the projecting sign, you may recall, you approved the wall sign illuminated, and there was a projecting sign portion that needed to go to city council. That did
Yes.
travel to city council and was approved 7-0.
That's for the item, that was for the business on Second Street.
Yep,
right?
1899 Second Street, correct. Another item, same night, March 10th, the council voted 7-0 to approve a special use permit for an animal hospital at 592, 594 Roger Williams Avenue. That was as recommended by the commission as well. And then on another matter, just in case you probably may have heard, although it was not before you, it was before the zoning board of appeals, but an item related to 295 Cedar regarding a legal lot of record variation was granted as well by the city council. That's all I have to report on items that went before council related to your work as a commission.
Thank you. Any business from the public? Not enough, one member of the public has no business with us right now. All right, so then I will move to, can we get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, can I get a second? And a second, and a third? All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, everybody.